All right, guys, this is going to be kind of an off the cuff, unedited kind of update. And I wanted to just, get on here. I'll put this probably in my exosomes playlist, just because, like I said, I wanted to get on here to give you guys this update, and let you know, I guess, what is going on. So, I have told you guys about this place. This is also, out of pocket. This is not covered by insurance. And I had considered going to this place. It's in Santa Barbara. I'm not going to give the name of the place as of right now, because I think I will probably continue talking to them. But they also do exosomes. And I had tossed around the idea of going to them and doing exosomes with them. And my doctor had shot that down. So I ended up doing exosomes with her instead of with them. But given, how things have gone this year with the exosomes treatment, I needed a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion. And so you guys saw the update of the doctor in TJ that I spoke to. And now I spoke to these people. Sorry, that was my phone. Now I spoke to these people in Santa Barbara, which is here in California, for those of you that don't know. And because they do work with exosomes, I was really interested in getting their take on this, because they seem very, very similar to the doctor that I have right now. Like, it's a very integrative medicine type of place. It's out of pocket. They do lots of different therapies, even hormone therapy, things like that. So I really wanted to get their take on what has been going on. Obviously, this was my first appointment, so it's like the initial, appointment. I think it was like about an hour and a half. And I did also have to pay for the blood work. I had to pay out of pocket for the blood work, even though I had a lot of that blood work done already. So it was pretty pricey. Like this whole first set of stuff was pretty, I guess it was expensive. But I really wanted to see what they had to say, especially because my blood work actually came back pretty good. So, it's really funny. I'm always interested in hearing what doctors have to say when they have basically nothing or very, very little to go off of. On top of the fact that I had already done exosomes, and now it's almost like we have one less option to work with. So, I wanted to kind of get their take. I didn't start the appointment telling them, oh, I did exosomes and it was horrible right off the bat. I was like, I'm saving that for the very, very end. I'm just kind of going to pretend like didn't have anything done, just tell them all of the issues that I've had, and just kind of act like everything, is currently ongoing. So we went down through the blood work, and like I said, my blood work is pretty decent. I have the blood work right here in front of me. The blood work is actually not bad, and they did say that some things, some levels of stuff that were technically in range, they could afford to be higher. That kind of thing. They were like, these things could be a little bit higher. It'd probably help with, sleep, with muscle mass, things like that. They said, these things could, we could work on. But she did look through all the blood work and was just like, yeah, everything looks pretty decent. She did mention peptide therapy again. But she actually mentioned like an oral peptide therapy. And so basically from this phone call, what, the main thing, that the main takeaway was gut issues. And if you recall, when I spoke to the scientist guy, that's also, I think, here in my exosomes playlist, he also mentioned that I needed to get my gut under control. And that's when he referred me to some quack in Beverly Hills. So it was really interesting that they came to the same conclusion, that my gut was a big, big issue. And I mean, I've known this, like I know this, my doctor knows this, we all know this. And I think the big problem, and this is what I told these people, is that we've thrown everything at the gut that we can, whether it's antifungals, antibiotics, SIBO treatment, things like that. And it just kind of keeps coming back, which is what I think why my doctor feels that my issues are, inflammatory and immune system problems. Like my immune system doesn't fight things off. And she said, yeah, there is a peptide. Sorry, I have like a little frog in my throat. She says there is a peptide. What did she call it? I have all my notes here in front of me. It's called BPC 157. I believe that stands for body protection compound 157. She says you can actually take it in the oral form. She said it's pretty good for people that have sensitivity. She says we don't see people reacting to it much. It's oral. It sort of helps to kind of heal that leaky gut or help that leaky gut a little bit. I was like, I guess, whatever, She said that might be something that you might want to consider. But she said, I don't know why you haven't done any testing for this. She said, because, doing testing would help us pinpoint what the problem is exactly, whether it's fungal, whether it's parasitic, whether it's bacterial. She said, have you done any testing for that? And I was like, no, I haven't. My doctor just kind of guessed and was like, it's that. And then I also guessed, and I was like, oh, it's got to be also a fungal overgrowth as well. And so we're just kind of shooting in the dark. And she said, that's probably not the best idea because you're just shooting in the dark and you're not really pinpointing exactly what it is. She told me that sometimes, say you have parasites and, an overgrowth of bacteria, they need to be treated in a certain order because one can make the other one worse. Or if you don't treat one, the other one, will never resolve. She says there's a certain order to this kind of stuff. So she recommended a stool and blood test that is actually sent to Africa. I guess all this stuff, it does sound kind of out there to me, but I had actually recently been looking into some kind of testing for SIBO and SIFO and that kind of thing. So I was like, hey, if this is what it takes, then this is what it takes. But I'm curious, I'm always curious to do the tests. And like I said, if I get them back and there's nothing wrong, it's fun to kind of see what the doctors come up with next. But seeing that I have not had any of these types of tests done, I was like, you know what, then why not? If it's within, if it's not like thousands and thousands of dollars, then I think we can do it. And she said, because of the fact that you've already done all of these other things, she said it's almost like, what haven't we done, right? So the peptide was one, and she said the parasite testing, test for, I think, parasites, candida, and just, I guess, other stuff. So she said that's, I think, where we should start. That seemed to be more the focus of this phone call was gut issues, especially after we had gone through the blood work and everything. She was just like, yeah, I think that's probably one way to go. So the peptides, the gut, she told me to be careful with oatmeal. She said oatmeal is sprayed with a lot of pesticides. She said, so if you're not eating organic oatmeal, you might want to switch to organic oatmeal. So I have to check and see, because I think I use the Bob's Red Mill oatmeal. She said my cholesterol is fine. Even though my cholesterol is a little bit on the higher side, she says that's fine. So then once we got to the end of the phone call, I decided to drop the bomb because I obviously didn't want the exosomes thing to influence their opinion. I wanted to hear what they had to say because they do use exosomes in their practice. But I didn't want them to automatically go to that, which they didn't. And then, and for me to say, well, I already did that. But they actually didn't. They're like, we're going to start with things that are not as expensive and that are not as, these are smaller things that we can do in testing, to see if there's something else there. So once I finally told them, I said, look, I did do exosomes And this is what happened. And she said, yeah, that does happen. She said, we've seen it happen more than we care to admit, they're in their practice as well. She said, it's pretty, it's not uncommon. And, she said they had one guy, and also they did confirm that it can happen with exosomes as well. You flare up and things get worse. And then, then what do you do? And she did say, she says, yeah, you will eventually kind of just go back to how you were before. It just is going to take, some time. She said, but we have had other patients. We've had patients that have gone, across the border to get stem cells. One guy went to Panama, she said, and, it just doesn't turn out the way that they had hoped. And they also know who this scientist guy is. They know who he is. They didn't really tell me much, about what they know about him, but they know who he is. And so they just basically confirmed, they're like, yeah, it does happen. I think there are other things that you can do. They said, they did tell me, they're like, we do think you can bounce back from this. But, there are other things that we need to eliminate before doing that. They said, we can absolutely still do exosomes, and we'll send you information on the products that we use. She said, but why don't we start with something that's not as expensive? And I think she also kind of said the same thing that doctor from TJ said, like, we need to stay away from that for now. We need to kind of like, you can consider it. We can give you the information about our products that we use, the exosome products, but for right now, let's look at these other things. So I do think that there is almost like this, let's approach this with caution. Because this is not, like, it doesn't look like you responded well. Like, they didn't really say that, but it's almost like they're kind of like, let's put that on the back burner because I don't think that that's really going to do it for you right now. So it was interesting to get their take on it, the fact that they do want to work on gut stuff. And I did tell them, the one thing that I am seeing, the one improvement that I am seeing is that it seems like I'm not getting reinfected as easily as I was before, with these infections that I was having. Even the SIBO and the SIFO seem to be a little bit more under control, maybe, but, I still had that, that bout of diarrhea in October. I told them, I said, I don't know what's going on, but, my doctors are being very quiet, my doctor and then the scientist guy that sold her this product. So, I think they were very, very careful not to give me their opinion too much because they also work with these types of products and they know how tricky it can be, that people can get in trouble for using these types of products here in the US. So I think they were not wanting to pass too much judgment. They wanted to focus on gut, possibly the peptide thing, and all of that. And so I did talk to them about the amalgam filling situation because I told her, I said, I know that the gut is from the mouth. I think it's like mouth to the rectum or something. I said, so if anything that's going in my mouth is causing an issue, I said, I do have these 2 amalgam fillings and I do grind my teeth. And she said, yeah, that's definitely, it could be a factor. She said, especially, as sensitive as you are. And I told her, I said, what I don't want is to be treating parasites and bacteria and all of that stuff, knowing that I have these amalgam fillings in there. I said, I want to eliminate as much as possible and get this sort of out of my head so that I can, not blame something else in the end. If treatments for parasites or for whatever doesn't work, then I'm going to be blaming the fillings all over again, kind of like what I'm doing right now after the exosomes. Now we've shifted over to, you have gut issues, you have this, you have that. And it's like, well, gut issues don't just include bacteria and parasites. I have these fillings in my mouth and I grind, so it's, I'm not saying that it's going to cure me to get these things taken out, but it's in my mouth. And then it's got to be getting into saliva and swallowing all of that. So she said, we do know one dentist in Beverly Hills. She said, I'll send you her information. We really like her. We really think that she's good. So I was like, okay, I said, send me her information, because this is what I want, basically. And that's what I told him. I said, this is what I want. I want, I'm paying you guys, I'm paying my doctor, and I want you guys to tell me, go see this person, because it's difficult to Google things. There are websites where you can look up dentists and doctors that specialize in these things. But at the end of the day, if you're not being referred there, it's just a shot in the dark. I'm just guessing that they may be good at their job or that they know what they're doing. But when I have a referral from a place, from a doctor, then I know that person is trusted. I know that they do good work because they're referring people there. And that's what I told her. I said, that's what I'm paying for. I said, I'm paying out of pocket. I'm paying them. I'm paying this other doctor. I paid for the exosomes, and it's like, to pay that money and not get, a referral for something, or for someone to tell me, give me some guidance and some direction, is just ridiculous to me. That I'm paying this money, I'm paying you to do a job, and you're not doing it. And so, that's what I told her. I said, I'm happy to take direction. I'm not the type of person that likes to go to Google or to, on forums and stuff to be looking for answers, or Facebook groups, because I've been in the Facebook groups. I know what kinds of people are there. It's just conjecture. That's why for me, even if the test is going to cost me money, I would rather test than be guessing, all the time. So I was really happy with that. And they did seem to confirm that the exosomes treatment is not going well. Although, like I said, I'm hoping that some of this, whatever it's doing, whether it's fighting infection, or helping to control maybe the SIBO and, other bacterial infections, I'm hoping that may give us sort of an advantage when it comes to all this other stuff, to these other tests, and possibly treating if there's something else there. So I'm hoping, I told her, I said, I would hope that I would get something out of the exosomes, because it was such a horrible treatment and it was so expensive. I'm like, I'm hoping that we can get something out of it. She did confirm also that it sometimes does take repeated treatments. So, which I do understand, my doctor did tell me it can take, maybe another infusion or intranasal and all of that. What, my doctor had not told me was that I would have to repeat the whole thing all over again, the whole 300 billion exosomes. That was not part of the discussion. She did say there would be follow-up, like I said, maybe intranasal, maybe another IV. Even if she would have said, in a year you might need one other IV, a year after that you might need another IV, that might have been something. But to say we need to repeat the whole thing all over again, I'm not sure if it just kind of sounds made up to me. So, but she did confirm that. She said it does take, maybe another pass, or another dose or something for that stuff to work. It's not just, a one-time thing. She didn't really say anything, because I did tell them the dosage. I said it's a massive dose, and she didn't really say much about it. Like, I did get the sense that the doctor was trying not to say too much, because, she did say that they have seen people react badly to it a lot. It's not uncommon. So I think for them, they are going to approach with caution. And she did say, we're going to start with something that is not in that price range, because that is really, it's a lot of money to do, exosomes and stem cells and things like that. So she really, they're, I guess, trying to be reasonable. I'm not expecting any of this to be cheap. I do know that these types of tests can run hundreds of dollars. I imagine maybe even in the thousands. I know the amalgam filling removal, the quote that I got, sorry about that. The quote that I had gotten from one of these sort of lower end, more affordable doctors was about $1,000 for the removal and for the whole process. So this dentist in Beverly Hills is probably going to be over $1,000. I can only imagine. But you know, I'm at a point where I do think at some point I'm going to have to do stem cells. Oh, by the way, right now that I said stem cells, before this video has gone on really long. She did say that stem cells would have been better in my case, which is what the scientist guy said. They both had said that they thought that stem cells would have been much better in my case. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. So, and she didn't really explain why, but I thought that was really, really weird because I felt that stem cells were something that people react to more. And they are aware of the dental pulp stem cells. And the clinic that I spoke to, I think they know who she is as well. So, I mean, it's a very small, you know, the stem cell exosome world is very, very small, but you know, she did say, you know, that stem cells might have been a better option in my case. But like I said, I'm not eliminating the possibility that I will have to do stem cells or exosomes again, but they seem to be, you know, of the same, thinking very similarly to the scientist dude, in the sense that they're like, we need to address some of the gut issues because this is, they're suspicious of something. And that's how I've been feeling since this exosome situation. I'm suspicious that there's something else going on that we have just not addressed. And they seem to have that same suspicion as well. So, you know, I really wanted to do this video and get this up for you guys. I'm just going to upload it. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to throw it up there into the exosomes playlist because, you know, I feel like a lot of this information is vital. Especially, like I said, when you spend this much money, and I have not told you guys how much I've spent on the exosomes. I might save that for the 1 year, my 1 year exosomes anniversary. But as of right now, you know, I don't want to say how much I spent, but it's a lot. It is a lot. And even the lower end of exosomes or stem cells, you're still looking at between $6,000 to $10,000. And, you know, it's not a small amount of money. But, you know, there could have been other things that we could have taken care of first. And I do sort of regret not doing the amalgam filling thing, but I did not have that guidance. And this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for referrals. I'm looking for them to tell me, go to this person because we know that they do good work and we know that you're not going to end up having more issues than what you went in with, because that's what happens. I mean, we saw what happened with the IVIG. Now I can't take IVIG anymore. I've ended up with more issues than I had going into this situation. So I really, you know, I think it was well worth the money. And I know there's going to be more. I'm going to be hemorrhaging money left and right, but I think it was worth the money, and I really liked getting their perspective. They seem to really, they had direction. They had a direction that they wanted to go in. And I like doctors like that. I like doctors that are like, we're going this way. And this is where I think we should start. So, well worth the money. In the future, I may tell you guys who these people are. But for right now, I'm going to kind of keep it quiet because I think I'm still going to be talking to them. So if you have not checked my 9-month exosomes update, that should already be up by now. Check that out. And I think I did an IVIG update. I don't know if that's up yet, but I have to throw that one up there because that's also kind of important. So anyways, this has gone on long enough. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them, and I will see you guys soon.